যদি সবাই ফিরে যায়, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায়, যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায়, তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। যদি আলো না ধরে, ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে, যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে, তবে বজ্রানলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা চলো রে, যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে। একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো, একলা চলো রে।
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. Today we have with us for the first time legendary journalist, author and best-selling author, Mr. Juggi Bhasin, Jagmohan Bhasin. Sir, thanks a lot for coming on my podcast.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
The podcast is essentially, the occasion is discussing his latest book, allegedly a fictional book called Lies, Spies and Nuclear Rise, but it is hardly fiction. So first, how much of it is fiction, how much of it is reality?
I think it's the bedrock or the base of the book is definitely real. It's based on real characters from the 70s, but I have used a lot of imagination. It's in what is today called the reality fictional genre. Like you have this movie which is making waves nowadays called Dhurandhar, which is also based on reality. So the book is something similar in that sense.
So, is there any legal barrier to taking real names and writing such a story?
Well, the fact of the matter is we have specified very clearly that it is inspired from real people. We are not hiding the fact, but it is not exactly their life story. The development of the characters, the plotting, the narrative, the events, they're not exactly in chronological order of the 70s. I have taken the liberty of of editing the narrative flow to suit the to make the book more interesting and racy. So really, it's if you say that this is a phototype of exactly of those characters, no, not really. But yes, some of the events, the inspiration is very much real.
So actually your life, your career has been as interesting as the book. So I would like to listen to a small plot gist of the book, and then we would quickly move on to your career, and then try to understand what kind of a person was writing this book. So sir, please, the plot for anybody who wants to read it and who hasn't read it yet.
Okay, the plot is very simple. This is about a prime minister in the 70s who conducted India's first ever nuclear test. Now, that fact is well known. It was conducted in 1974. But what really is not known are the events behind the nuclear test. What were the reasons why the prime minister went in for the nuclear test? What was the play of the intelligence agencies of that time? There were 3 intelligence agencies which were in contention. This was our intelligence agency, the Pakistanis, ISI, and even the Americans, the CIA. A lot of stuff was going on at that particular point in time. The family dynamics of the prime minister, that part is also in the book. So it's actually a triangle. It's a 3-point kind of narrative which unfolds in the book. It meshes into the single narrative. So that is the real part, the substantial part of the book.
So since you have been in the corridors of power all your life, what is the key difference between common people and people like them in the highest rungs of power? Because a lot of the things they do for simply personal political gain, or even for the nation, things that common people would shudder to even think of doing, or even absolutely not do. What is the difference there? Are they all of them sociopaths, or are they just that in love with their careers or the country?
No, I wouldn't go to that extent and say that they are sociopaths. But one thing is very, very clear. See, I was on when I used to be in Doordarshan News. Then I was the lead anchor for Lok Sabha Television. It was started by Mr. Bhaskar Ghosh long back. Now, the thing which I've observed during, because I was, as I said, on the PM's beat, and I observed and looked at these prime ministers during my time. There was VP Singh, and then there was Chandrasekhar. All prime ministers to that extent are to some extent extraordinary people. They can't be people like you and me, because their ability to survive, their ability to reinvent themselves, because remember, the perks of power are very, very great, and who wouldn't like to enjoy those perks of power? And therefore these any prime minister for that matter would like to cling on to power, or any politician for that matter. So that makes them extraordinary people, which I observed in my interactions and in my observers when I was observing them. That part comes across very, very clearly.
Right. How would you define power then?
Interesting question. How would I define power? Power is something which is a kind of an elixir. Elixir is, there's a Hindi word for it. It's called nasha. It's a kind of, it's something which kind of stirs you up. It is something which makes you do things which ordinary people can't even dream of doing. It is that X factor, that unknown thing which everybody wants to possess. As I said, politicians have power, even film stars have power for that matter, celebrity power. Even today's day and age, the influencers have a lot of power in that sense. You have 20, 30 lakh people who listen to you or who watch your show, but that's power in a certain sense. So power comes in various shapes, sizes, and in forms in today's day and age.
Is it inherently bad? Is there any way there can be a world without power, or where power does not play an important role? Like, would you be on the same page as Foucault?
I wouldn't agree, because that would be too idealistic. That would be like we're living in a utopian world when everyone is equal. Fact of the matter is, we all know everybody is not equal. And when there is inequality, when everybody is not equal, then somebody will be more powerful than the other person. That's the nature of things. That's the way it has always been. And that's the way it will always be.
And what are morals for you? Morals according to you?
See, morals, I think in a personal life, if we can follow our own ethics, and there are what are called societal ethics, which of course are common for everyone. But then there are these personal ethics which you have. And if you can abide by your personal ethics, I think you can be successful as a human being. But the characters which I show in my book, the intelligence agents, they inhabit what is I call a gray zone. They are neither black, they are not white. Their moral, their ethics, their morality, their sense of loyalty, deception, all these things are very, very questionable. But in all these things, the ends justify the means. So if the ends are achieved, then the means are justified. That's the way, unfortunately, it is in such a world of spies and intelligence agents and all these people, or even for that matter, politicians. Whether we like it or not, we can think of idealistic, but when is the last time you and I have actually seen or met a completely idealistic politician we all admire and you say that he is like pure as a driven snow? That's not true. We know that. Everybody has their moral ambiguities. They have their gray zones. If it is true for politicians, it's also true for the intelligence community. And even for us, I would say, for that matter.
Right. Sir, I've only heard people call, let's say, intelligence agencies or spies either black or gray. Nobody calls them white for some reason. But if in the end it was for Indians, shouldn't Indians be considering them simply white?
Well, I don't know what the definition of white really means, but the fact of the matter is...
That they're completely good, awesome, very brilliant for us, therefore white.
No, not really. I'll give you a very interesting example. For instance, there is this world famous university which we all are aware of, Cambridge University. And you'll be very surprised to know that some of the best spies, which the earlier Soviet Union, which is Russia now, they used to recruit. They used to actually recruit from Cambridge University. The famous spy Kim Philby was recruited from Cambridge University, and so were a lot of other people from Cambridge. So you could argue that, these people are academics, they are very talented, they are learned people. How would they even think of double-crossing the nation or their country and becoming spies? But it's a fact. They've done it. So to say that there would be a moralistic white within quotes world, which you're talking about, is too idealistic. I don't think so it exists.
So you are not in favor of then picking a side, because calling it grey would be sort of a neutral position, but would you pick a side and say that, and then say white?
Look, it's not about my preference. I'm just talking to you about the reality of things. See, how do I know about spies? I wasn't in any intelligence agency, but I used to, as a television journalist, I used to go to Kashmir very frequently. And unfortunately, at that time, even I'm not too sure about what happens today, Doordarshan News was always marked. And therefore, we used to have a lot of security. In that capacity, I used to interact with a lot of intelligence people and all that. That's my observation. It's a dangerous game. It is not such a simple game as we think. And therefore, if they inhabit, as I said, a kind of a gray zone, well, then there are no other options, really, honestly, if you ask me. It's like the movie. It's like if I can just give another example, it's like I don't know if you've seen this movie Durandar, but what we are showing in that movie is correct. That guy is the central protagonist. The character is again a gray character. He's also killing a lot of people and everything. Was he given the mandate to do that? We don't know. It's a gray zone.
So since
the ends justify the means.
go on.
And the ends justify the means. Really. Yeah.
Since you pretty much knew all that happened, that the things you have mentioned in the book from your days in the career, did you have to research anything new to write this book, or it was all from your memory?
Certainly from my memory, because please remember when in the 70s, I was like a young person, I was growing up at that time. I was aware of what was going on with the regimes, with what was happening in the country. By the way, the 70s was a very, very interesting decade in India's history. I personally find it one of the most fascinating decades of all time. It was a time of great change, societal change, cultural change. There were all kinds of things which are happening politically, economically, socially. You're from Kolkata. You would know that the time of the Naxalbari movement, all these things, they were going on in Kolkata and entire Bengal. So it was a time of huge change. Very fascinating era, if you ask me.
There are clear parallels to the 70s decade and today, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. See, that's the point which I'm trying to establish in the book. What was happening then in the 70s to some extent is also happening today. I'm talking of the intelligence game. See, at that time, the CIA was in contention. They were very, very ill-disposed to the prime minister at that time. They wanted her gone. They were not happy with her at all. The Pakistanis were always in the game, ISI and our intelligence agencies also. And pretty much something similar, I think, is also going on today. The intelligence game is also being, it's happening. The parallels between that decade and today are very, very much there.
And there's Bangladesh going on.
My friend. Well, what can I say? You live in Kolkata. I'm assuming you're in Kolkata.
Yeah.
So
Kolkata.
you are at the nerve center. You would know much, much more than me also. But everybody is holding their breath. Everybody is watching with fascination, horror, anguish. What's happening in Bangladesh? There are so many dimensions to the crisis in Bangladesh. We can't even get started on that. So it's a time of great change. Great ferment is going on at this point in time.
Do you see that repeating as well? Another partition of Bangladesh?
It's absolutely impossible to predict what's going to happen in the future. All I'm saying is that anything can happen in the future. You never know. We all know this chicken's neck thing is a real problem. I mean, who knows how the situation might turn. We also know that now there are huge parts of Bangladesh which are reclaiming or they are rediscovering their linkages with Pakistan. That also is happening. There is a persecuted minority population. That also is a fact. So it's like a cauldron right now. It's simmering, it's bubbling over. Anything can happen in such a scenario. Let's wait and see how it kind of pans out. But yeah,
So
a time of great crisis and change. Yes.
You very vehemently, very convincingly said that you absolutely cannot predict the future. But I'm sure you took some liberty in predicting things in the 80s and 90s, right? As a more younger person with more naivete.
Look, I can, but I'll tell you honestly, we live today in such a polarized world. We live in such a polarized environment. Anything you might say might be taken in the wrong context.
Right.
If you really want a prediction, well, the thing I'm prediction is that sooner or later something will give away in this entire equation. See, whether we like it or not, India is a big country. Okay. Let me give you another example. Then it'll become even more clear. The Americans have this doctrine called the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine means that America says that we have, in a certain sense, we will oversee what happens in South of Americas. And that is why this crisis right now, which is turning out in Venezuela and all that, that's part of the Monroe Doctrine. India never officially says such things, but the fact is, it is cognizant of the fact that it is a big power in the region, and it cannot allow a country like Bangladesh, which is a very, very, it used to be actually an ally in a certain sense under Sheikh Hasina.
Yeah.
Now, if that country is completely going, totally, it's turning 180 degrees against us. I mean, who knows? Something could happen, in the chicken neck area. I'm just saying, these are possibilities are there. Who knows? But if it happens, I wouldn't be very surprised.
In the 80s and 90s, what was the mood like? What did you all think the future India was going to turn out to be? Like the 2020s of India, what did you all predict about it?
See, in the 80s and 90s, we were bogged down by internal problems, to be very honest with you. I in one of my books called Blood Song, I have covered the Punjab militancy. And there were a lot of these crises which are going on. There was an economic crisis also which was going on. India was again, it was struggling. It was finding its feet. Today, obviously, India is a far more, powerful economic country. But that was a very, very precarious time. And internally, there were lots of things which are going on. Then the entire Mandal movement, so much was going on at that particular time. But the focus really was internal during that era. The economic situation was very, very fragile, was very, very critical. And we all know when Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he ushered in the reforms, those reforms were to some extent, they were pushed by the World Bank, that you have to reform. There is no other way. The IMF, absolutely. So, 80s, 90s, you ask me, there was internal situation. Places like Mumbai, the underworld was like completely, it was dominant at that particular point in time. So yeah, again, a time of great ferment, but internally, externally, not so much, I would say. But internally, the problems were big in that point in time.
Did any of your personal predictions from 80s and 90s, in fact, come true in the 2020s, 2015s?
Look, the big political change which has really happened is that we used to have these coalition governments in the 80s and 90s.
My God, yes.
You remember
a government
that?
Every 6 months, yes.
Every 6 months, the coalition would break and started with the Janata Party long back. Then, new governments would come and people really grew tired of the entire thing. And maybe that's why, to that extent, also a more cohesive, stronger government came at the center. But at the same time, it gave rise to what is called very strong regional leaders, like you have for instance, in Bengal, you have in Tamil Nadu, you have, in Telangana. I mean, so both processes were actually happening at that point in time. A strong government the shift happened, of course, not so much in the 80s and 90s, but that transition phase was people got tired of these coalition experiments, as they are called. And then the other thing which was happening in the coalition experiments is that the parties who were in power, there was some other party which was not in power was actually calling the shots. They were dictating to the parties in power. So all kinds of crazy things were going on at that point in time. But yeah, things are quite different today in that sense.
Back then, did you all think Article 370 will ever be revoked and Ram Mandir will happen?
No, Ram Mandir has already happened. Ram Mandir is already there, Bill. Article 370 will not be revoked, I promise you that. Because, see, by and large, there is I would say a national consensus that it probably had to go. The big question now in Kashmir is not even 370, by the way. The big question for probably is statehood. I mean, that, of course, is a question which is
no, even the abrogation. Did you all think the abrogation will happen in the 80s and 90s?
I was very clear it would happen, because if you were following the path of what the BJP was saying all along, they were determined for that. So when the abrogation happened, I wasn't very surprised. I was,
I see.
It seemed to be the natural thing that this party would do that. So they did that, yeah.
And did you all think a secular judiciary would ever say, let the Ram Mandir happen?
Look, I would still believe in our judicial system. We can all have different opinions on whether the judgment was right or wrong. And by the way, just for your viewers, I like to give a very interesting fact. I was among the first television journalists who was there when the Babri Masjid was broken. I was there with my camera team.
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw the whole thing with my own eyes. Now, which way the judgment finally went, why did it go that way? The judiciary, I would still say our judiciary by and large is objective. I would say the decision, one might agree with this or not, but yeah, this was probably the judgment which there was. I can't see what other judgment could have come, out of the entire thing. Honestly, if you ask me. This is my personal opinion.
Think of it? Yeah, of course. What did you all think of it in the 80s and 90s? Did you all think back then that it will happen?
See, in the 80s and 90s, all these issues had been kept on the back burner. Okay? All these issues, they had been kept in the back burner because under the UPA government, they certainly did not want to bring these issues to a head, which means they didn't want a kind of a conflict resolution. They were putting all these issues on the back burner, which might be, some would say, a good thing. Okay, that's a point of view. But it was on the cards. If the BJP would ever come to power, then they would force this issue, which they did. We all know that. But yeah, 80s and 90s decades were different. There was no question of a resolution of these, long-standing issues.
What was the impression of BJP back then? Did you all think it will ever become a significant political party?
Well, we all know the history. They started with, they were left with just 2 members of parliament at some point in time. And from there, Mr. Advani, he rebuilt the party. The turning point obviously was the Kaal Sevak, the Ram Mandir movement. That, of course, was everything turned in that. We all know that. See, there is now a point of view, and I'm going to take a very, very neutral stand on this. I don't want to give personalized points of view.
Of course.
But you can call it Hindu resurgence, or you can call it a Hindu renaissance. See, because the term renaissance in India, we always associate with Bengal. And you would know this better than me. The term renaissance is always associated with Bengal. But there was a kind of a Hindu renaissance which came along with this movement. So these are logical things which happened from that movement. I'm just giving you a totally neutral, bipartisan, a kind of a centrist point of view. We can debate whether it was right or wrong. That is a separate issue altogether. But that's a historical process, and it was bound to happen.
So what was that?
Can I give another example? See, when Nehru was there, at that time, socialism was in the air, okay? And for decades and decades after that, the socialistic principle actually permeated every aspect of life in India. And by the way, a lot of people, when people say that the BJP is a right-wing party, they don't even know what they're talking about. It actually has a lot of these left centric
Yeah.
policy even today,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
people don't understand,
Yes.
So right wing is basically an economic theory. It is not some parties which are
Yes.
right wing. There is no right wing in this country, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. BJP is practically Amartya Sen's economic policies, right?
Well, see, a lot of the schemes, a lot of the developmental schemes, a lot of things. These are quasi-socialist
Yes.
kind of left kind of schemes and all that. Like in Tamil Nadu, you used to have these Amma canteens, and now recently in Delhi they have launched what are called these Atal canteens, which is based on the
Yeah.
same principle that for 5 rupees people can get a meal. If somebody doesn't have food or whatever, just walk into there, pay your $5, and you get a good
yeah.
wholesome meal. So the concept is it's been practiced all over the country in a certain sense. So I laugh when people say, "Oh, this is a right wing government." There's no right wing in this government, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Sir, what was that day like, the day of the Babri Masjid demolition? What did you think as a journalist? Were you just bothered about whether let me get the best angle and stuff, or were you having some opinions in your mind as well? That, oh my God, what a disgusting thing, or what an awesome thing? Did you have some thoughts like that as well?
Look, at the back of the mind, we were all aware that something could happen on that day. And I'll give you this very funny story. If you give me 2 minutes, I'll narrate to you. It was a winter morning, and I was wearing, in television, there is something which you do, which is called a piece to camera, where you stand in front of the camera and the background. So I actually had bought a new blue blazer at that time, and I said, I'll wear it for my piece to camera. And then after the Shilanyas was over, within seconds, the entire thing started, and the demolition started and everything. And then it was chaos after that. The CRPF, everybody, and then the journalists, they were shouting for the journalists to go in one particular place. I somehow got separated from the main team of journalists. There were a lot of these car sevens who were floating around, and they saw me with these. In those days, we used to have these high band camera tapes. Those are big tapes,
I see.
And they said, this is a television guy. He has to be from Doordarshan, and they were all slogans and everything. And it could have become really, really dangerous. And I kind of guaranteed my safety by saying, I said, okay, why don't you take my new coat, wear it, just let me go. I'm just a journalist doing my job. I'm not taking any side, this side or this other, don't worry. But take my coat, leave me alone. So I kind of escaped literally by actually giving that coat. That was a bit of a funny incident, but yeah, it was completely crazy. I think maybe it was orchestrated, but it also was a little out of control. And it's just one of those things which will always remain in living memory as far as I'm concerned, It can never go away.
What was the day after like? And did you have Muslim colleagues in the office and stuff? What were the interactions like? Were you embarrassed as a Hindu and stuff?
Day after was very bad. I mean, honest with you, because I boarded the train. I came back by train to Delhi, and horrors. People had been slaughtered and everything, and dead bodies. I actually saw some of them. So because then it had spread. It wasn't just contained to Ayodhya. It had spread beyond that. It was pretty awful. It was, So it was pretty bad, by the time I came back to Delhi.
Right. And how much of the Doordarshan system was just an arm of the Congress? Did you all have any freedom?
Now you're asking me all the secrets. Okay, I'll tell you the story, which is the true story. There was News Track, and we were there, Doordarshan News, and then there was BBC also. But we were the ones who first got the visuals. We had everything. My voiceover report, my piece, everything was ready, and we had sent it to Delhi. And this was reported, by the way, in India Today. And at the last moment, the 9 o'clock used to be the main prime time bulletin in those days. And the government of the day, in their wisdom, in fact, the cabinet secretary, he called our director of news. Director of news, I think at that time, was Harish Avasthi. And he said, and he gave some instruction. Then Harish Avasthi called me, and he says, Juggi, he always used to call me Juggi, not Jagmohan. And he says, Juggi, I know you've done a fantastic job and all that, but I'm sorry, we cannot air this coverage. We're going to keep all this coverage literally under lock and key, because if we air this coverage at 9 o'clock today, the country will go up in flames. This is like, I still remember his words. I was crushed, because you risk your life literally for a coverage like this, and it didn't go. It just didn't go. And the same visuals, some of them were taken by BBC and others, and they were aired on the same day. So yeah, BBC, not many people used to watch in those days. And News Track was just a video magazine, really. Doordarshan was really the main channel at that time. So then there were only these radio reports or word by mouth reports. Nobody actually saw. Then later, some of these visuals started appearing and all that after some time. But at that critical moment, the visuals were not aired on Doordarshan News. They were, as I said, they were put under lock and key. So yeah,
I see.
Lifetime coverage, but it wasn't shown. And India Today used to have this page, I remember, and they mentioned that Jagmohan Bhasin, the correspondent from Doordarshan, he had all the visuals, he had the report, but it was shut out. It was not allowed to be aired. But that happened.
I will tie this together to Doordarshan as well. But firstly, I need to know, have you ever been a socialist?
Oh, no. I'm not a socialist. I'm sorry to disappoint some people, but I'm not a socialist. Yeah. See,
not even in your college days.
I'm a pragmatist here. I'm being honest with you. I believe if you work hard, you have every right to enjoy your life. I'm certainly not a socialist by any stretch of the imagination. Not at all. No.
Even in your college days, you have thought that way?
Well, college, we were all inspired by various kind of ideologies, but they used to come and go. I mean, one grew up, you were reading Sartre, you were reading the philosophers, you were reading Greek mythology, different influences. I was even influenced by something like Paradise Lost by Milton, There is so much which you can learn from that. But, over a period of time, as you grow up, as you enter the real world, because I haven't only been a television reporter or a correspondent and an anchor, I've also been an entrepreneur. I've done various things. I also act on stage, by the way, in Delhi stage. So, I would put myself as a pragmatist. I wouldn't really call myself as any one particular ideology which I followed. I believe in common sense ideology. For me, that is more important.
But back then, just this one channel doing all the work and being forced to do all the work, no channel being allowed. Did you all feel disgusted about it, or did you all not have a time to think about these things?
Look,
were you all actively waiting with bating breath for more channels to come up?
Let me put it this way. There was a very vibrant print media at that point in time. Then there were these video channels which had come up. I still remember there was News Track, there was Eyewitness of Karan Thapar, all these video channels were there. See, nobody really understood television at that time. As I said, we were the only batch. For instance, my colleague at that time, I don't know if you know about him, he used to be in Kolkata, Doordarshan News, Neshi's Sur. He just retired, I think, from Doordarshan. So we were this batch of 50 people, correspondents spread all over the country. So at that time, the concept of even a private player was non-existent, Nobody knew how it would take shape. Later, after many years, Z News started and all these other NDTV. Of course, NDTV, under Pranoy, they used to have the world, I don't know what that program was called, but all these things started coming much, much later. Nobody even imagined, it was just used to be one channel, state television. It's like the PBS of America. But yeah.
How happy were you all when so many news channels came up? Immediately, didn't it turn all the socialists into capitalists, thinking that, okay, this is so much better, then let's be capitalists now?
Let's be very, very clear. All the private television channels, including Pranoy's, NDTV, all the channels, they worked on what is called a profit center margin. Nobody was there for altruism, or nobody was there to serve the larger public good. Everybody wanted to make a profit. Everybody, all these channels sensed that they were, the early birds in the game, literally. And profit was, of course, a motive. But yeah, obviously, capturing television reach in terms of audiences and all that was also a prerogative. So nobody really came with an ideology, if you're asking me. They all came with, in terms of, the new frontier was opening up. Let me put it this way. It's like, the Americas, somebody discovers, the West. It's like a totally new land which you discover. That was a feeling. And obviously everybody wanted to secure as many audiences and also make a profit in the bargain.
No, but especially you, since you have never been a socialist, which is rare in the country, how relieved were you that this is finally happening in the country?
Sorry, what was happening in the country?
That new channels coming up and the reforms of 1991.
See, by that time, I had my fill of television because I'm being honest with you, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And also because I needed a break from television at that time because I was contemplating starting my writing career. I've written 7 books. This is my 7th book, which has come out now. I was also acting on stage. By the way, I've also taken a shot at Bollywood also. I was in Bombay for 10 years and I was acting in a few serials and this and that. So I was trying different things. They were very interesting things. I didn't just want to be confined only to news. So, but I had, as I said, 2 television careers. I left Doordarshan News. Then after a few years, Bhaskar Ghosh called me back. He says, Juggi, you are one of my best correspondents, and I really want you back because I'm setting up this new channel called Lok Sabha Television, and I want you to be the lead anchor, which I became for a short time. I did that. But then, my wife moved to Bombay. She was a very senior banker, and she says, Juggi, you've had your fill of television. You want to write. So why don't you leave all this, come to Bombay and, write and act, and these are things you really want to do. So that's how my journey took place. So there was no question of any ideology or anything. It was pragmatic. It was as far as my journey is concerned. And I'm very lucky that I got a chance to try different things, because being stuck only with television news, that gets too much. I honestly, if you ask me that I can keep doing the same thing again and again for the rest of my life, I don't like to do that. It gets boring actually for me. So
I see.
But today I do my own podcast, and so if there is any unfulfilled kind of desire left, it fulfills through the podcast. I enjoy some of my podcasts. I'm not very regular with it, but I still do it. It's fine. It's okay.
Yeah. Wait, let me ask you. The 70s, since Indira Gandhi is there and the emergency is there. On the other hand, she is doing Bangladesh. What were your thoughts on nationalism back then? Were you all critics of nationalism, as it is cool to be in the academia?
A very interesting question, and give me 2 minutes. I'll explain this to you because it's a very important question which you have asked, and I'll explain to you why. Now, I'm just talking now about Indira Gandhi. I'm not so much talking about my book. Okay, Indira Gandhi was, to my mind, a person of 2 parts. In a certain sense, she was a nationalist. Okay. She was worried about the country in terms of India's positioning as as a country, as a nation, but she also carried the legacy of her father. Her father, Nehru, was, we all know, was a pacifist. He would have never contemplated having a sizable army or aggression or those kind of things,
right?
Because the 71 is a classic thing where she won the war. No other no other leader in the world actually has done this, where you created an entirely new country, which is Bangladesh. She won the war. 95,000 Pakistani soldiers were captured. I personally feel that was huge leverage which she had at that point in time. But for some odd reason, she, I think, lost in the peace. She could have negotiated with Bhutto a lot of terms, a lot of things which could have gone India's way. The nuclear program of Pakistan could have been completely stopped if she wanted. POK, which we call Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, could have come back. I mean, a lot of things could have happened because you had 95,000 people in your hands. But as I said, she was a pacifist. Then she became that Nehruvian pacifist. So there were 2 sides to her. And that's why she's such a fascinating personality, such a complex personality. At one level, she was definitely a nationalist. She was a very aggressive person. At another level, she was also a pacifist who kind of, So that yin yang of Indira Gandhi continued throughout her life, if you see her life journey. And that's why I find her fascinating, as a subject, as a complex political personality, as a world leader, one of the most fascinating world leaders ever.
Could you quantify it on a scale of 100? How much of her personality was nationalism and how much of it was personal political ambition?
See, there was another side to her that she also understood, in terms of politics, how to be a survivor, how to ensure her survivability in politics. So the nationalism actually helped at that point in time. The 71 war was huge, in terms of her popularity and all that. But within 2 years of that, she lost the emergency came. The economic conditions of India were 2 or 3 years. It came in 75, if I'm not mistaken. The things are completely out of control. The emergency was slammed. And then we all know she went to prison. And then she came back in the 1980s and she won the elections all over again. So the nationalism was, I don't know if she was definitely a nationalist, but whether it was out of conviction or out of political survival, that's a big question mark. That's a very interesting thing which you've asked. That only, the people who are really, really close to her could answer that. But she would use her nationalism at times to ensure her survivability. Even Operation Blue Star, for that matter, it was a decision which I personally felt was a completely wrong decision. There were so many other ways to take out the Sikh militants from the Golden Temple. But she used Operation Blue Star to that extent to enhance her popularity, So, as I said, a very complex person. She took some major decisions, but as I said, there were times when she was completely out of it. As I said, she lost the peace. To my mind, she couldn't. So, very, very complex person.
Off the top of your head, do you remember any other alternative ways, things that could have been done instead of Blue Star?
Well, there could have been hundreds of other things. You could have applied the pressures. You could have stopped the food. You could have laid. See, you literally. Okay, let me explain in military terms. It's like today. I'll just give you an example, a theoretical example. Don't take it any other way. Tomorrow, if you really want to put the pressure on Bangladesh, for instance, what will you do? The easiest thing for India would be to do a naval blockade of Bangladesh. That is Chittagong port. Everything enters from there. Okay, nothing. How much can it come from the air? It all has to come from the sea route. So you do a naval blockade, and Bangladesh is going to feel the heat. Now, if she had done a blockade or she had starved, encircled Golden Temple completely, the perimeters, over a period of time, it would have crumbled. The resistance would have crumbled. There were so many other ways to do that. This is just one of the ways I am saying. There are other ways also. But the storming of the Golden Temple, to my mind, was wrong. It was not correct at all. I don't support that.
Were there such criticisms of her back then, or was the media completely rara?
The official media was definitely, they had no choice. But I think the criticism was there. But again, at that time, please remember something else was happening. This so-called there were a large section of the people who were also pretty fed up with the terrorism that was going on. A lot of innocents had been killed. So opinions were mixed at the best. The true horror of what happened actually unfolded in the Sikh riots in Delhi, as we all know. But at that time, a lot of people supported this action. I still remember, though even though people like us, and by the way, I have to confess out here, I'm also a Punjabi Sikh. Okay. So it becomes a little personal also, because this is not the way to do it. You could have done these things could have been done by other ways and other means. There could have been a more sensible approach. So yes, it's a very, how do I put it, a sordid chapter in India's history. It should not have happened. And yeah, that's my take on it.
Are you a religious Sikh or an atheist Sikh? Agnostic?
No, I call myself a spiritual person. I'm not a religious. I'm not overtly religious at all. I'm a Sikh. My wife is a Hindu. But we are not the religious types, but we are very spiritual people in the sense, I'll give you an example. Only a few days back, both of us were in Varanasi, and there is this music festival which the person who does the Jaipur Literature Festival, Sanjoy, he organizes. So we were there, but we were not there so much as to go to the temples and all that, but we were there to enjoy the music, to soak in the Sufi atmosphere. So in that sense, we are very spiritual people, but we are not the religious types, both of us. My convictions are very different.
So, but even then, the Operation Blue Star did pain you in some ways, as a Sikh.
Oh, no, definitely pain me. See, my point is, a lot of innocents were also killed along with the terrorists. The terrorists were, of course, killed. And I'm not for a moment, nobody can even have the slightest bit of sympathy for somebody like a Bhindranwale or all those terrorists who are running amok. The natural thing would have been to have captured him, to bring him to trial, to put all those people on trial. That should have been the natural way to do it. But the storming of the Golden Temple, and please remember also, you are storming a religious place at the end of the day. Whether it's a temple or whether it's a mosque or whether it's a Gurdwara or whether it is a church or anything, by itself is a wrong thing, and if the state is doing it, it's not even, see, like in the Babri Masjid case, it was the people who did, not the state. But this was the state which had moved, and they were using tanks, by the way. I don't know if you know about this. Some of the main, the temple actually took direct hits from armored personnel carriers and tanks. I mean, what was the need for all that? That's my point. Or if you had to use force, then you could have used maybe some kind of a tear gas or rubber bullets or something like that. I mean, as I said, there were hundreds of other options,
Yeah. And even today, on that theme of 70s repeating itself, we have a Khalistani problem seemingly again, although not that seriously, of course.
It is not so much because, see, I have been to Amritsar a few times, because, again, with these festivals which happen there. The Khalistan issue is not really an issue in Punjab, though it, of course, is a big issue in all these countries, in Canada, in the UK, and New Zealand, US also. So that problem is there. But I don't think so Punjab really has. See, Punjab, honestly speaking, has a huge drug problem. It has economic issues. The problems in Punjab are very, very different, actually, today.
What has refueled the Khalistan issue? Is it because of the poverty or drug issue, or is it just ISI funded?
See, there's a very significant thing which has happened. Many of these terrorists, not all the terrorists were wiped out in Operation Blue Star. Some of them escaped. Some of them were, people who used to help these terrorists. They were in the villages. They were in the countryside. A lot of them escaped from India. They went either through the Nepal route or through Sri Lanka, and finally they made their way to Western countries. Now, those are the people who have started this Khalistan movement in Canada and all that. That generation, and now their kids have grown up. They have, imbibed all that hatred for India, perceived rights or wrongs or whatever you want to call it. So it's that generation of people who escaped from India, who set up, they were given asylum. A lot of these Western countries gave them asylum by their political asylum. So they set up bases in all these countries, and the kids have grown up. They also carry the same hatred towards India. So it's that particular generation which is fueling this problem.
Now, sir, this question is bound to sound political, but I assure the audience it's not. As a neutral, very experienced senior journalist, could you possibly make a comparison between Narendra Modi and Indira Gandhi in terms of nationalism versus personal political interest? How much of it is in these two people?
See, my own guess is, as I said, my politics is very centrist. I do believe that there is a similarity between Mr. Modi and Indira Gandhi in terms of being strong leaders, in terms of being nationalistic leaders. It's like you've seen those Venn diagrams, when two Venn diagrams join, and there is this commonality. So that's the commonality. But at the same time, they also come from very different ecosystems, Mr. Modi and Indira
Right,
Gandhi.
right.
So there is this part which is common, but there is a large part which is
Yeah.
uncommon also. That's the
Hmm.
political philosophy, that is the philosophy, religious matters, and all that. So that is different. But there is definitely a core element which is very common to both the leaders. That is true.
Hmm.
And I think even the RSS, I think, probably acknowledges that. They also understand this thing.
Right. Now, since so much of the 70s is repeating itself, I shudder to think if the emergency will repeat itself or not. But would it be fair to say that a seemingly right-wing government always has extra scrutiny on it from its own journalists as well as the international media? So therefore, the right-wing governments end up being more ensuring of freedom, because a seemingly right-wing government would never get away with doing a blue star and an emergency. That party would probably get destroyed completely, but Congress did not. So do you think an emergency can happen under Modi or Amit
I
Shah,
don't think so.
Yogi Adityanath?
I don't think so. Any party will ever repeat the mistake of the emergency. Please remember, it's a stain which will always be there, blotting the Congress's track record. The emergency was, this is not the solution for any democratic country. I mean, you can be going down, you can have economic indices which are going down, you can have social unrest, you can do anything, but it does not justify the emergency. I personally am dead against these kind of strong arm tactics and all that. And I've lived through the emergency. You know, I was a young
Right.
man at that point in time. I've seen what happened at that time. There was no freedom, nothing of the press and everything. So I don't wish it on anyone. And I don't think so any political party in this country, including the regional parties, would ever advocate an emergency, however dire the situation. Unless, of course, there is a national emergency. If there is, let's say, an attack by China or Pakistan or whatever, that's a different thing altogether. Then you have a different kind of an emergency. But otherwise, imposing an emergency makes no sense at all. It doesn't matter it's a right-wing government or a left-wing or a centrist or whatever government it is. No party in the country today would even contemplate such an action.
What was the key final trigger for the emergency? What pushed her into it?
She was losing power. Simple as that. See, Jayaprakash Narayan had grown very powerful. He had held this massive meeting in Ramlila Maidan around that time. And she got really, really worried, you know, that the threat was not only now in Patna or in Bihar, the threat had actually arrived at her doorstep, quite literally. Indira Gandhi also, this is again my guess estimate, I have no way to prove it. To my mind, she was a very paranoid person also. Because some people at the top, you have to understand their mental makeup. A lot of them are very paranoid in terms of power and in terms of slippage of power, that we will lose power. I think she misread the situation. No doubt, Jayaprakash Narayan's movement was very, very powerful. There was a lot of student unrest. But I think she still had a core of her supporters. But I think she kind of got spooked. Then another problem with Indira Gandhi was that she was surrounded by these so-called loyalists who were yes men. So if she would have said to them that the situation is going out of control, they would have added 10 different things. Oh, madam, it's gone so bad. You have to do something about it. Take some action, please. I think that's how the scenario unfolded. And then she did this fatal mistake of declaring the emergency. And then, let's not forget another thing. Sanjay Gandhi also was a factor. She was, I don't think so, she was very happy with what Sanjay Gandhi was doing. I'm convinced about that. All those episodes of the Turkman Gate, the forced sterilization camps and everything, I think she was very upset about this entire thing. So she saw, I think, the emergency as a kind of, there's a word called panacea, you know, as a kind of a solution to all her problems. I think that's what really happened. She misread the situation. She misjudged it. She was probably led on also by her, all the toadies surrounding her. And then that fatal mistake she made.
Was he a liability for her, Sanjay Gandhi?
Oh yeah, eventually. See, she definitely was very keen that he should be the heir apparent, because Rajiv at that time wasn't certainly interested. He was not interested in politics at all.
Right.
But then he became autonomous in a certain sense. With the Youth Congress, he started becoming autonomous. He was doing completely things on his own. All the sterilization thing, I can tell you 100% Indira Gandhi had no say. She would never have agreed to these kind of things. But he started doing
Oh.
all these things on his own. So she was pretty upset, I think, with this entire thing that was going on. No question about it.
Then, sir, I have to ask you this, but feel free to say, feel free to refuse to answer this. Is there any reason to believe that she might be the one who had him killed?
Who?
Sanjay Gandhi.
No. That's rubbish.
Okay.
Come on. These are all wild theories and all that. No, that's complete rubbish.
Yeah.
No mother will. I don't think so. But see, she was, how do I put it? I'll tell you the right English word for it. She was disillusioned by him. See, she had very high hopes from him. He turned out to be a very different kind of a person. His political graph trajectory was extremely, it went in a completely abnormal direction. And even though Indira Gandhi obviously had, she was paranoid, she could be very close in her thinking. She relied on her bureaucrats more than her ministers, by the way. She always trusted her bureaucrats more than her ministers. She was very paranoid. But again, there were parts of her which are also democratic. Let's give it to her. She actually had this ability to feel the pulse of the people. She had that ability. Let's not discount some of her strengths. These are massive strengths, so that you can't take away from her, but she understood that Sanjay Gandhi would end up destroying her legacy completely. I think she understood that completely. But to say that
that's
she
the
was
problem with
instrumental
go on.
Yeah. I know there is this conspiracy theory going that the Cessna was sabotage and all that. Look, nobody knows. I don't know. Honestly, it would be a mistake. It would be scurrilous to even suggest something like that. In all probability, it was simply either pilot error or there was something wrong with the aircraft that crashed. It was just a thing which happens. These biplanes, they go up, they go down. It happens all the time. I think it was just that, really.
Yeah. So that's the problem with such strong leaders, because I bet that Sanjay Gandhi would not have let those 95,000 soldiers go back to Pakistan, but then he would probably do another emergency and keep it on for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting what you just said. I have never thought about it, that how would have Sanjay Gandhi reacted to those 95,000 soldiers. What his views were vis-a-vis Pakistan, I don't think anybody knows. See, he again was completely obsessed. I think he had, in medical terms, there is something called an OCD. This is an obsessive compulsive disorder. I think he probably had an OCD for cleanliness, for, everything should be clean and perfect and all that.
And that's not a good thing in politics.
No, it's not a good thing in politics. And he was completely paranoid about this population thing, that we have too much population, too many people. So I don't think so. His mind actually even went to Pakistan and all these other things. He was basically, internal politics. And the ways of the Youth Congress, everybody knew at that time, was strong arm tactics they used to employ. Some people actually have compared him to the brown shirts of Nazi Germany. I mean, there are all kinds of things which were there at that time. So, yeah, all that was happening at that time.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up, because Hitler also considered the Jews to be insects. And when you think of any group as insects as a strong leader, then the nation is screwed.
The nation is screwed. I agree with you, and the Hitler story actually should be a warning for generations and generations to come. The brown shirt story. I'll just give you an example today. I mean, I was listening to this podcast by this rabid racist called Nick Fuentes, this American guy. And he said something about Vivek Ramaswamy's wife, about the vice president. See, you might agree or not agree with Donald Trump or with J.D. Vance and all that. But do you have any right to speak, or the language which he is using against Indians, against women? It's not only pure racism, it's horrible. But there are people like that. And Hitler might have gone away and all that, but unfortunately, his legacy in a very, very horrible way still continues, because there are people, generations later, such people arise, they take center stage. The guy has about 5 million followers.
He's very popular. Yeah,
he's very popular among a certain rabid section of the crowd. So it's very worrying. It's very horrifying. But these are societal developments which we can't ignore. They are right there in front of us. And that's why I'm
Fuentes
saying
has,
the point that we were
yeah, go
talking
on.
earlier, the
Yeah.
past is always connected with the present. The past never goes away.
Mm.
You have to learn from history, but people don't learn from history. And that's why I'm saying the past is always connected with the present. These things were there in the past, but they're coming back today. In a certain
Mm.
sense, people like Nick Fuentes and all these people, they remind you of the 70s, the racism of South Africa, which used to
Right.
practice the apartheid regime. It's
Yeah.
something like that. It's exactly like that, actually, if you ask me.
Yeah. And Fuentes has declared that he will campaign against Vivek Ramaswamy actively in Ohio.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and he'll make
That's
sure
his,
the Republicans lose.
that's his project. He wants him to lose. And right now, for some reason, Indians are feeling the heat in the US. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's thanks to characters like this.
Yeah. And you see, sir, yeah, yeah, go on.
Even though to be fair, the president and the vice president have said that racism, this hatred for minorities, for Jews, for Hindus, for whatever, is not part of the conservative movement. I mean, JD Vance has made a statement to that effect. So let's be clear about that. So this is not some party line which the MAGA is floating or something, but there are these idiots who are floating these kind of theories, and it's very, very dangerous and very worrying, actually.
Yeah, and on the ground, there's no support for Fuentes. People are happily going to vote for Vivek only. Vivek has tremendous support in Ohio.
I hope he wins just to prove a point to this Fuentes fellow. I'd like to see the face of this Fuentes fellow when Vivek wins. I hope if nothing else, he wins precisely because of this thing. I just hope so.
Yeah. And you see how short-sighted these ideas are, because probably he's doing it just for fame. Maybe he believes in it, but let's say someday he does become the president, he's not going to be able to execute on any of these ideas. Then millions of his followers are going to be extremely disappointed in him and try to assassinate him, or he's going to die a brutal death at the hands of some opponent.
See, these people will always, and they also know it, they will always be fringe. The fringe can never become the main, the main party or the main people who control the levers of power. But the fringe can trouble you, certainly. The fringe can put demands on the state which are completely very difficult to meet. They can create a lot of problems for the state. This is what his strategy is. If he has 5 million followers, there will be probably a lot more who believe in this kind of radicalism in a certain sense. So that can be a problem for any president. Forget about this current president. It can be for any administration, That is how these people position themselves as, troublemakers. And again, for what? Either it is for personal benefit, either it is to build a support base, or to keep in the limelight any which way that is possible. All three objectives could be, because this is what these people try and do by making these kind of, these horrifying statements.
It's possibly plain and simple extortion journalism as well, right? I'll abuse you so much that you pay me some money to shut up.
Yeah, maybe, who knows? I mean, I certainly feel profit motive is a big, big thing, in terms of increasing followers, in terms of making lots of money. The more stupid, the more idiotic things you say on the screen in front of the camera, probably you feel that more people will watch me, the more people will serenade me, the more people will believe me. So it's a game. It's really a game, but it's a game which is a very dangerous game, because you are actually messing around with people's lives, communities, the interrelations between various communities. You're doing all that just for maybe short-sighted profit motives.
Yeah. And you've probably met and seen this kind of extortion journalism all your life very up close, right?
Well, not so much. See, as I said, in state television, you were still governed by certain rules and regulations. I wasn't really a part of the print media, to be honest.
Right.
I was always part of state television. So I didn't really encounter too much of all this. But look, honestly, if you look at today's television media, for instance, we all know the real story. Everybody is divided on either this side or that side. I mean, at the end of the day, you followed a certain corporate governance or a certain corporate directive, you can put it this way. The state today the corporate has supplanted the state, and the corporates can have a certain either ideology or a profit motive of their own. Whether it is of this party or that party, that's a totally different thing, but that's the way it is. And therefore, you hardly find any objective media today. We are either
Yeah.
on this side or that side. That's really the story today. You know, when people, in our time, the criticism we always used to say, "Arey, tum log Doordarshan wale kya jante ho? You are such sarkari people." I laugh and I point out to them today that, guys, you're
Yeah.
working under the corporate media, but what kind of independence are you talking about? You're also following a
Yeah.
certain corporate ideal, whether it's this side or
Yeah.
that side. It's as simple as this.
Yeah. Yeah, and the people have understood. I think nobody watches the mainstream news for just news. They watch it to just for some WWE stuff. That my team is winning or my team is losing, so someone is defending it.
Younger people don't. I talk to my son. He's in the US. He says, "Pops, are you crazy? I would never watch Indian news or whatever." But he says, "Yeah, I get all my news from podcasts, from sites, and all that."
And
And
Twitter,
that's the way
frankly.
the younger generation, they get all their news from podcasts like yours. They are, and they can have their preferences, whatever they want to watch.
Yeah.
But it's really the older lot, very older people, maybe of my generation or even older than me, who watch the news today. Actually, it's really, really, all this shouting on television gets to you after some time. It makes no sense. You get fed up, and you see the same faces again and again and again, the same bunch of chokers, I call them, who appear again and again. It's beyond a point, it becomes pointless, actually, if you ask me.
But what you said in the beginning was very fascinating to me. You said that you were pretty fed up pretty early on and decided to become a writer. So a journalist of that stature definitely has a lot of access, right? You hang out with the most powerful people in the country and you get invited to parties and stuff. So were you not enticed by that? Or if not, why not?
I will be honest with you. It was my peculiar personal circumstances which allowed me to have this freedom to experiment around. Not everybody gets that freedom. As I said, my wife is a very senior corporate person. We were pretty okay. And she told me, she said, "Juggi, I know you are basically a creative person at heart. You don't want to be in a government job throughout your life. So just follow your passions. You want to write, you want to act, you want to do all these things, do that. But why do you need to be in a job? Because a job will confine you at the end of the day, whether you like it or not. And as if you're in government service, then at the end of the day, you do become a sarkari babu, whether you like it or not." She says, "You are much, much more than that. Follow your passion." And I'm so thankful to my wife. She allowed me to follow my passion. And that's why. So, but my circumstances are very unique and different. Normally, people, you're right, they don't leave jobs. Today, there are so many journalists who are out of, they don't have a job actually, because of all these shifting things which are going on right now. And sometimes people are forced to toe a line. All kinds of things are happening. We know that. So in that sense, I'm very lucky. I think I got my good breaks. I have followed my passion. Even today, I follow my passion. I do my podcast. I do theater. I'm, I write my books. So what else can one want?
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah. You are truly living life, and that can only happen when you don't have that thirst for power. I think many other people would be happy to just hang out around the prime minister all their lives because you get nearby
yes,
power,
you're right. Completely.
hoping for a Rajya Sabha seat and Lok Sabha seat someday.
One of the most common fallacies in journalism, let me tell you that. And this is, I have talked to so many senior journalists. They all have this fantasy or they have this stupid thought in their mind. I know so much about economics. I know so much about finance that the prime minister listens to me. The finance minister listens to me.
Yeah.
This is all rubbish. Total rubbish. Let me tell you, these people who are in power, they don't care a hang about journalists. They use journalists when it is required in terms of an interview and all that. But if a journalist thinks that's because if you are sitting down with the home minister or the finance minister for an interview, you think you are very close to that person, then you are mistaken. You are not. The politician will always use you and then he will discard you. Just say, wo Hindi mein kehte hain na, makhi out of doodh. He doesn't care. So people, journalists think that, I can decide the destiny of a country. Forget it. No journalist has that power.
And the politicians actually let them believe that, yes, I'm very much influenced by you. What you say actually matters.
Yeah. See, the politicians are most politicians are smooth talkers. So they will obviously say,
Yeah,
आप कितने senior journalists हैं, आपके साथ बैठ के तो कितना अच्छा लग रहा है, बहुत मजा आ रहा
yeah,
है. And all that
yeah,
rubbish, which will go on. And the journalist actually, like an inflated balloon, he will keep rolling around. See, I was with the home minister and the home minister complimented me. I can get anything done, तुम बताओ मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ तुम्हारे लिए. This is all total bakwas and rubbish. It doesn't happen like that. I mean, yeah, sure.
yeah.
You can go around asking for some favors and all that, but I think that's so demeaning, When you go around begging
Yeah,
for favors, asking for "Veli ye kar do, wo kar do," I think it's very demeaning. And I'm actually very happy I got out of that rut, a long time back. And
yeah.
I've done things, whatever I want to do in my own way. It's like that
Hmm.
famous song of Frank Sinatra, I did things my way. That's the way it
Yeah,
should be.
yeah, yeah. Like Bon Jovi said when Frankie said, "I did it my way," in "It's My Life."
Correct.
Now, sir, I have noticed that I think it's my opinion that Hitler was the greatest voiceover artist of all time, and politicians and the policemen in our country are the best of actors. I recently had a run-in with the Trinamool Congress. I refused some Durga Puja chanda, and I was beaten up and had fake molestation cases against me. So I'm going around hanging around in courts and the police station. The stuff they say, and it's so believable. And 5 minutes later, someone informs me that they were completely lying. It's astounding to me. Why aren't they in the entertainment industry? Why are they in this industry? They are such good actors. We are absolutely losing out on so much great talent because these people are taking up jobs in other professions.
Well, let me give you a very different example. People think in the corporate world, everybody wears ties and suits and everybody is very prim and proper and all that. But my wife told me something very interesting long back. And she says, Juggi, in the corporate world also, to some extent, you have to act when you're giving presentations, when you're talking,
Yeah,
you're during
it's a
serious
performance.
negotiations. What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah,
It's about performance. It's about how you can
yeah.
impress the other people.
Voice
So
modulation,
yeah,
intonation, all of that matters.
the level of play acting, you can call it or whatever,
Yeah,
carries at various levels. Sure, it does.
yeah. Wait, we have some audience questions as well. Wait, someone was saying that News 18 is generally more centrist. Well, Stickle Mako, come to Bengal. They do a better job of defending Trinamool than their own party paper. Okay. Um, Wait, the audience question asks, what were the actual consequences of the Dullat doctrine, and why don't we have an actual doctrine for our national security which stays consistent even when the leadership changes? Or maybe it does. We
Well,
don't know of it.
yeah. See, the Dullat doctrine or the Dullat way was during basically, see, he has never shied of the fact that he's always been close to the Congress regimes of the
Hmm.
past. And the Congress regimes of the past, by and large, were non-confrontationist when it came to Pakistan. Okay, let's be very, very clear about that. The Doval doctrine, which again has been shown to
Hmm.
some extent with accuracy, I think, in the movie Dhurandhar, is
Hmm.
that it's a completely directly opposite to the Dulat doctrine. Doval is
Hmm.
a completely different man from what Dulat was. It's very, very carefully calibrated confrontation at the right time,
Hmm.
strikes, all these things. These are things which are now in the public domain. There's nothing which the one doesn't know it. But the two doctrines, the two men are completely like chalk and cheese, and they were both in raw. So that's the point.
Hmm. Sir, do you believe in that conspiracy theory that IK Gujral actually gave away the addresses and identities of our assets in Pakistan, and then there was a massacre of them?
On this particular question, I'm not going to give you an answer because a lot of
Okay.
this might be part of my future book.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
So I don't want
Okay.
to talk about this right now, but I'm
Yeah.
contemplating something about this. So
Okay.
you'll have to wait for my new book when it comes
Okay.
for that.
Guys, be ready to pre-order the next book as well as of course read the current one as well. Our
Okay.
audience member is saying that Punjab's TFR doesn't support an insurgency anymore.
What is TFR?
The fertility rates.
Acha, fertility doesn't support
Back then they had four,
no, no,
five
no.
kids.
No. Punjab, see, this Khalistan thing is a complete exaggeration. I don't think so. That is Punjab is grappling with really different issues right now. This drug problem is actually a big problem. It still is not under control. It's the problem with the job creation. Agriculture is like a losing proposition for most farmers out there, even the rich farmers. Incomes have plateaued. There are all kinds of issues. Then migration is coming to a stop. That's a big problem which is happening right now. It's no longer that easy for you to pack off and go to Canada, sell your land or something, because these countries, they have reached at the end of their tether. They can't take in any more immigrants. So that is also, these things are affecting Punjab in a big way. Insurgency is the last thing on their minds. But what will insurgency achieve? See, insurgency started, please understand the problems in Punjab, partly because of small land holdings, agricultural land holdings. That was the root cause, because there wasn't enough income. That problem is still there. But right now, let me give you a very interesting example. One big reason why Naxalism is coming to an end. Do you know the reason for that? The simple biggest reason is because of
Prosperity.
the cell phone. No, the cell phone. And I'll explain to you why.
I see.
Everybody has a cell phone today. The Naxalites, through the cell phones, the foot soldiers, they was, for the first time when they opened their cell phones, they were exposed to what's happening in the rest of the country, rest of the world.
Right.
And suddenly they realized that whatever we had fought for, whatever our idealism or whatever it was, the world has completely changed. And that is the single biggest reason which has completely crushed Naxalism. And the same thing applies to Punjab in that sense. Agriculture is not paying off, but that doesn't mean that the people will rush into insurgency, because there are hundreds of other things which are happening with the younger people right now. So it will hopefully sort itself out over a period of time.
There's just too much else to do. There's a variety of options to do instead of insurgency.
Correct. I mean, look at this way, like you are doing your podcast. I think you started with a book podcast, but it developed into more like a political podcast and all kinds of questions.
Yeah.
These are the interesting, because today we live in a world of segmentation. People have different interests. They have different podcasts people listen to. They live. There are hundreds of channels to choose from on social media.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things were never there in our time. Today, there are hundreds of things young people can do. It's completely changed. I mean, I remember that I was growing in the era when our parents would tell us either you have to be a doctor or an engineer, nothing else. That's it. Or at the most,
or an IAS.
you can try for being an IAS. That's it.
Right.
Today, if you tell younger people this, they'll start laughing. People can be whatever they want to be. Younger people today, they can do anything they want to. There are hundreds and hundreds of opportunities today.
Yeah, and our population is so high that you can cater to any percentage of the country and have a pretty well-off life.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you have like a vast section of people who want to listen to you, the kind of questions you ask, because they like whatever you're asking or the questions you're asking. So you have your own audience. You have your own.
Yeah.
This is what people dream of. वो पहले कभी नहीं होता था, but now it's a reality. We can all do that if you want to.
Yeah.
At my age, I'm 64. I mean, even I can create a certain kind of an audience which will listen to my podcast, for instance. If I can do that, and younger people, you guys can do 100x more than what we do.
Yeah.
So the possibilities and the opportunities are there.
Next question from the audience is: Did Dulat really manage to fracture Kashmiri militant groups through infighting during his tenure as IB chief, or is it just some PR game?
I personally, I don't like this person really too much. See, at the end of the day, I'm still old-fashioned. I'm a conservative in the sense I do believe that if you are in the intelligence game, then you have to be loyal to your country. He's made many, how do I put it, statements which are not exactly comfortable. They don't sit comfortably with me in terms of cooperation with the Pakistanis and all that. See, all this is fine. Betterment of relations between the two countries. But at the end of the day, there is an existential crisis going on between India and Pakistan. You can't ignore it. It's just there staring you in the face. And at a time like this, Dulat has made a lot of these. He always does that, in the books he has written. He keeps this rapprochement with Pakistan and all that. Do you think it's as simple? So many, even the current prime minister has tried that. It's not worked. So, Dullat, to my mind, I'm not too sure. I would hold my. I don't think so. He was any great
I see.
intelligence
Okay.
head. I don't think so.
So, sir, there was one Khalistani problem at one point, and then there is now the drug problem. Growing up in Bengal, we have always known Sikhs to be simply patriots. We know Sikh is equal to a fierce army man. Is that the case anymore, or is it the problem of drugs outweighs their patriotism now?
No, the patriotism had nothing to do with the drug problem. I'm sure the Sikhs are as patriotic as if the whole country proceed to them. That's not the issue at all.
No, if you bump into a person in Punjab, is it more the chances of him being an army person or a patriot, or is he a drug addict?
No. The army thing, by the way, is a bit of a misnomer. Let me explain to you, because now you have state quotas. So there are only so many people which can be recruited from a state. This entire concept of martial races and all that, which used to be there many years back, that has gone. So there are only certain number of, let's say, Sikhs or Punjabis or whatever who can come from Punjab, as it is for any other state. Okay, so that's the first part of it. Now, the point is the drug problem is there for specific reasons. Partly it's because, as I said, the land holdings were shrinking, employment opportunities were going. Also, there was a degree of prosperity. It made a lot of people comfortable. There were all kinds of reasons why the drug problem. And then this massive drug infiltration from across Pakistan. They have been sending these drugs through drones, through a lot of smuggling, which happens because it's a border state. Please remember that. So there are a lot of complex reasons why the drug problem is so rampant in Punjab. Also, corruption in the bureaucracy, in the police sometimes, not every policeman, but certainly there is corruption. So there are lots of reasons for that. And the good thing is that I think people are cognizant of this problem. It's not that they are unaware of the problem, but how much they are really doing for it is a big question mark. I'm not too sure about that.
And sir, after all, addiction is addiction. You can't just stop being an addict just because you want it. What is the solution really here?
See, addiction comes in so many forms. And let me give you this latest thing which addiction is going on. There are these fly-by-night manufacturers who are manufacturing these fly-by-night cough syrups. Cough syrup, by the way, if you take too much of it, it's an addictive.
Yeah.
It will give you a nasha. It will give you a high.
I have friends who have been addicted to cough syrups and destroyed their lives.
Correct. They have destroyed their lives. So the government has to keep monitoring this all the time, because these addictions come through various shapes and forms and everything you can't even imagine. How suddenly they seep into the system at a point in time.
And so many legal things are addictive, like dendrite, cough syrup. You can get hooked to all these things.
Exactly. And we all know that how many chemists are actually giving you medicine on prescription. Somebody will give you whatever you want. That's a big problem in our country. And also glamour people, influencers, Bollywood. Now it's come down a little bit, but they were glamorizing drug taking and all that. That's also a big problem, There's there are I'm saying these are very, very intricate and complex problems. The solutions can't be like a hammer you swat or fly, but you really need to be on your toes. You have to think on your feet and come up with solutions which address the problems. That is still not particularly happening all over, I still think. I think there's so much remains to be done.
So, at one point, Hollywood really stylized or glamorized cigarettes so much that I think the world took up cigarette smoking, and then it died down. Firstly, how do you think that was tackled? And secondly, Hollywood is now pushing Xanax the same way. Everywhere a woman is shown to be taking Xanax and having a chilled out day. She's so stressed out that she'll have a Xanax and have a good time. Or having painkillers. Every strong man who's a retired army man takes a bunch of painkillers. I've never seen any Indian take painkillers like that. In movies, they show they're taking 10 painkillers at the same time and going out on a fierce journey or an action scene. So they are going to open the doors for more addiction that way. But how was the cigarette problem tackled in USA, even after Hollywood pushed it?
Well, the cigarette problem is very simple. They also have realized all that, but there's a peculiar problem in the West. Uh, for some odd reason, a lot of people are addicted to taking pills, and they might not exactly be drugs or whatever, but people take
Right.
pills for everything out there. That's a
Yeah.
very Western thing.
Yeah.
Anything you might have a little bit of pain, let's say on your arm or in your leg or whatever, you'll pop a pill. In
Yeah.
India, we still, by and large, we wait for it to settle down. We maybe apply traditional methods, heating, this, that. But the Westerner will immediately take a pill. So the pill
Yeah.
problem is a big, big problem in the West. And that sometimes takes dangerous turns in terms of addictions, drugs, as we all know. Smoking is just one of them, really. Now, of course, the whole world is aware of the demerits of smoking. Vaping, all these things. But I said, but the solution also, please remember, as a creative person, I still don't support the fact that you blanket ban everything, lets you show until. See, if supposing you want to show on a serial, like in Dhurandhar, for instance, all these guys are smoking in the film.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
in the 70s and the 80s, in the 60s in America, everybody used to smoke. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
It was like the done thing to do, both men and women. Till obviously later research showed in the 70s and 80s that it was causing cancer. Then they realized what was really going on. That famous case of the Marlboro man, a good-looking man who used to smoke these cigarettes, and he died of cancer, throat cancer.
Yeah.
So then that shook people up, that if this can happen to this guy, it can happen to any one of us. So I'm saying you need a more subtle, you need a more effective approach to all these things. This hammer approach, that you ban everything. Banning never helps, by the way. Banning will only increase the curiosity. Like, for instance, this ban which Australia has done on the 16-year-olds that they can't watch social media. I don't know how successful it can be. It's impossible to monitor these kind of things, So I have a slightly different take on that.
Yeah. I'm a libertarian as well, so I noticed that the alcohol ban in USA was a joke. It opened way for people dying of hooch, and of course large scale mafia violence as well.
Absolutely correct. See, and remember one thing: prohibition, before it was implemented in India in some states, prohibition was a big thing in America in the 1920s. After the Great Depression and all that, prohibition was the entire mafia gangs, the entire
Al Capone was a product of that, right?
Of the prohibition. This was directly correlated with prohibition. So these things never work. I personally feel these are completely useless things. They never work. Education, a more subtle approach, a more careful approach is far more effective than all this,
I think it's completely pointless in Gujarat as well. But would you say that it is the only thing left to do in a place like Bihar, where there's no solution in the near future? It will be of some help.
Bihar, there was a peculiar problem which I think the chief minister addressed. The women were pretty fed up that most of the men were drinking and wasting money and blowing up all the money which they had earned. So in a way, they were very relieved when Nitish Kumar, he started implementing the prohibition thing. What's happening right now, I really don't know. But I think the same issue still remains. The women, by and large, are very much in favor of prohibition in Bihar. I know about Bihar a little bit. I don't know about Gujarat at all, what's happened. The joke about Gujarat, of course, is that it is also one of the wettest states in the country, that so much of illegal booze run through. But these are stories. I don't know how far they are true. But Bihar, they were definitely, the women were certainly in complete support of this prohibition. So that was a very interesting and a peculiar thing which was happening in that state.
Sir, our audience member is asking your tips on handling high stressful and crony politics environment in workplace for common man.
Okay. See, believe in yourself. That's very important. At the end of the day, don't get intimidated. It doesn't matter. You today live in a day and age where, it's not that you have a job and you are completely wedded to that job. I give examples from my life.
Right.
you can diversify, you can, it
Hmm.
sometimes it appears very difficult that, oh, if I lose this job, what's going to happen? But you will find something else. There are people, because today, please remember, skilled manpower, people who are talented, people not even talented, I would say, but people who are ready to work hard. There are more and more people want such people in industries. This is a very interesting thing which my wife tells me, because she's a corporate person. She says sometimes in corporate industries, she sits on many boards, and she says the boards have a peculiar problem. They keep talking about the fact that industries don't get the right people to staff in the industry. They just don't get the right kind of people. So what I'm saying is that if you are a person who is ready to work hard, you have a certain bit of talent or skill or whatever, there will be many takers. So don't get stressed by it. Live life on your terms, not on somebody else's terms. That's the mantra, I would say. That doesn't mean that you defy people in offices and all that, but take a
Hmm.
call. If something is going against you, something is against you, it's not working with your value system, leave it. You will get other things, good things in life, but don't take stress. Stress is the biggest killer today. I agree with that. It's a huge killer.
Hmm. Hmm. Sir, I will take this question and add something with it as well. He's asking, what was the discourse and perception about Bengalis in the national level in post-independent India, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and now? Every decade was probably different. And I want to ask you separately, what did you all think of the Naxalbari movement? Did you all think of it as, well, yeah, methods are wrong, but the goal is really fabulous and majestic, noble?
See, all I know is, because I recall a little bit of those times. I was pretty young then, but I recall,
Yeah.
in a strange way, the Naxal Bari movement, in a very strange way. In Delhi, it started in elite colleges like St. Stephen's College and all that. It was
Yeah.
a little romantic. It was like the romance of the South American, how do you pronounce him? Che Guevara. Che Guevara.
Hmm.
Okay. With a stylish red
Yeah.
hat he used to wear. Till
Hmm.
later, all the real reports came out that the guy, he could be charming, he could be whatever, but he used to line up people
Hmm.
and literally shoot them in the head. That's what he used to do, by the way.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
romance of the Naxalbari movement, the romance of all the and by the way, a lot of educated youngsters in Bengal actually took to that, coming from elite colleges, because maybe they generally wanted a more fair world, a more equal world. That all could be true, but later,
Hmm.
the classic thing which they say about the French Revolution applies to the Naxalbari movement also, that a revolution eats its own children after a period of time. And this is what happened. Then the Naxalbari movement then morphed into hardcore Maoism, which was really
Hmm.
what was going on in Chhattisgarh and in
Hmm.
all these other states. Um,
Hmm.
and that was, of course, you're just killing, whether at the end of the day, the soldier or the CRPF guy and all that. At the end of the day, he's also a human being. He also has a
Hmm.
family. Yes,
Hmm.
he's doing a job. He has to protect the country,
Hmm.
whatever. But you're killing him mercilessly, blowing up people with IEDs and all that. So then the romance, and by the way, it actually started from Europe in a certain sense, if you ask me. The France of the
Hmm.
60s and all that. This was a very romantic
That's where the
period
word
of
terrorism was born, right? It was because of the French Revolution.
the French Revolution. But I'm saying the educated youngsters, you used to read Albert Camus at that time. You used to read
Hmm.
the Outsider. You used to the works of Sartre, all the philosophers.
Hmm.
They were all left. They were all people who were. There used to be a philosophy called the nihilistic philosophy. All kinds of
Yeah.
things, all kinds of influences were happening in the 60s and all that. So it started as a
Hmm.
romance, but unfortunately, it morphed into something very, very dreadful. That's the trajectory of the Naxal Bari movement. Now, about the impression of the Bengalis, that's a very interesting question, because ever since I have grown up, the consciousness of Bengalis being culturally very aware, of well-read people, always taking to the arts, taking to the media, that is true. I would say it's still true even today. I mean, it's not gone away. It would be very hard to find a Bengali who is not culturally aware, who is not a well-read person. that perception, I think, still holds even today to that extent.
Then has anything changed about the perception of Bengalis? Because there is definitely something wrong with our politics, the most politically violent state.
Well, somebody would argue that you're also the most self-aware state. The self-awareness is
Yeah.
of a different level altogether in terms of politics. But those are choices, the choices which one makes. I really don't want to get into the politics of Bengal because, frankly, not for any other reason, because I don't know too much of the subject, what's happening today. But all I'm saying is that, look, I know about the violence and all that. That, of course, is. But that also was there in the 60s and 70s. There was a very interesting film which was made in the 70s called Mere Apne. You have to see that film, which was based on the Naxalbari movement. Vinod Khanna was in that film. I think there was a Bengali movie which was also made on the same theme. Very interesting film. It captured the times of the Naxalbari movement so brilliantly well. And then Sagina Mahato, if I'm not mistaken, these were some of the films which are made at that time, which captured the essence. So, if you ask the rest of the country, how do they perceive Bengal? Yes, very passionate people. There could be violence, there could be all that, but at the same time, people who are extremely sensitive, people who are well-read, people who are very much aware of their rights, political rights, culturally very rich. That has not gone away.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you can laugh at that, but I'm telling you the rest of the perception of the country.
No, you're not wrong. The problem is that what are they doing with that awareness?
What are they doing with that? You would know better. I wouldn't. Since you live there, you are, you're part of the milieu. I really can't answer that. But I have Bengali friends, and this friend of mine, she acts with me on stage. She's a Bengali, and she's one of the most self-aware, one of the most fascinating feminists I've ever met. It's such a pleasure to work with her. So I honestly, I have just good things to say. I really can't. I don't have too many negative perceptions. But yeah, you would know better about what's really happening or what's going on.
This is another Bengali viewer of us asking, how is Bengal even relevant today in India anymore? Is it irrelevant?
No. I don't think so. You should look. All. Let me put it this way. Since I have seen so many decades, all communities, all nations, all states, they go through a cyclic process. Sometimes you go right on the top.
Yeah.
Sometimes you dip. Things are not so great. It's true not only for Bengalis, it's true for all communities actually. As I said, there was a time in the 60s when Punjab used to be probably the most prosperous state in the country. Today, its rankings have fallen rock bottom, and I'm saying this as a Punjabi. It's sad, but it's true. Okay, so this happens with states. It happens with communities. There is a rise and fall. It's like a Shakespearean thing: the rise and fall of the destinies and people and events, civilizations. That happens all the time. There's nothing unique about it. What's happening?
How much is the Aam Aadmi Party responsible for the perpetration of the addiction issue in Punjab?
Let's not get into this. Is like hardcore politics and all that. I don't want.
Yeah. After all, he's an author. He was brought here to discuss his fictional book.
Let's see. I don't think so. Any political party will perpetuate the drug problem. How effective they have been in controlling it, that I can say not too effective. I think because it's still very much there. But I don't think any political party will go out of the way to start or continue a drug problem.
I had been meaning to ask you this about 45 minutes back. So today there is obviously a very nationalistic feeling amongst the youth. My viewers are almost all of them are 18 to 35, or at least 80% of them. So all of us are very much proud to be Indians, and we are very hopeful about the country's future and stuff. What was the mood like in the 70s, 80s? Were you all hopeful about the country, or were you thinking that it's going to the dogs?
Great question, and I'll give you a very interesting answer. 70s and 80s was a time of great change. As I explained to you earlier, that was one of the most interesting decades. But it's also a time when we always used to look at the West, the golden land, going to America or going to England was like the biggest thing in your life, And I'm telling you a fact. Our generation people, when they went to the West at that time, they always used to keep their heads down. See, because the
Right.
validation of the white man, of the Gora, was very, very important at that point in time. The big change which has happened today, I am a frequent traveler because I do go abroad quite a time, because partly my son is there, and partly because my wife and I, we also like to travel a lot. I can tell you today, the perception of the Indian is no longer that perception of the Indian of earlier days. Today, you can actually hold your head high. They know you are now coming from a country which still is a developing country, obviously, but at the same time, you're not using a very crude term, but you're not that Bhukananga variety any longer, which they
Right.
used to associate with us long back. They know
Hence
that
the rise of
this
influencers.
yeah, they know this is a country on the move. This is the country of the future. Everything is going to happen out here in this country, and they look at you in that sense with not only with respect, but now as it turning out, let's say in parts of America, they actually look at you with envy. That how come the
Right.
Indians have the highest per capita income
Highest
among
tax
all the
bracket.
communities, actually, if you
Yeah.
think about it. So yeah, sometimes
Yeah.
you're a victim of your own success. That's what has changed completely as far as Indians are concerned.
Yeah. Nick Fuentes would not have come about in 1970 and 80.
Yeah, exactly. Why is he talking about India all the time or Indians all the time? Because it weighs heavily on his mind. He realizes
Yeah.
that this so-called white renaissance, whatever he wants to bring about, they are no match for Indians in terms of ability, in terms of
Yeah.
success, in terms of earning money, whatever you want to call it. They're absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
this variety of people are no match at all.
Yeah. Max Weber said Protestant ethics causes work ethics. Now, if he was alive today, he would say Hinduism causes work ethics, because in work ethics, no American can beat Indians today.
Yeah, see, we are some would argue that we kind of live to work. A lot of people would say that. There is a debate,
Yeah.
obviously, in this country, we should have regulated working hours and all that. But look at what's happening in Europe. Today, earlier they used to have weekends. Now they have started having holidays on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the new thing is that actually by Thursday, by 1 o'clock, they empty their offices, which means half of
Yeah.
the week they're actually on holiday and the other half of the
Yeah.
week they work. So,
Yeah.
I mean, sure, development brings a certain price, it brings certain comforts.
Right. Of course.
But
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if this is the solution for going ahead in the future.
And
So
you're
my
yeah,
generation,
go on.
we still believe in the concept of hard work. Hard work is important, I
Yeah.
think. If you really want to
Yeah.
achieve something, you really have to sweat it out. I do believe in that. Maybe it's a generational thing. I don't know how many younger people believe in that, but yeah, this is the way we were brought up, at least.
So, would you say that y'all were a little, y'all ended up being a little apologetic about being Indians back then, which is not the case anymore?
70s, of course, absolutely. We never used to. We used to be very, very wary. I think going abroad, the need to be accepted by the white man was so big. It was huge at that point in time. To get a certain validation from the Westerner was a hugely important thing. All that has changed completely today. Today, when you're walking the streets of London, I go to London very frequently. Nobody cares. You're not bothered. You're not out to impress anyone. In fact, people have sometimes complimented me. I don't like that compliment. Oh, you speak such good English. I said, why shouldn't I speak good English, mate? Is English your prerogative? Or as far as we are concerned, English is one of the languages in India. It's just one of the languages. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at
Yeah.
English. It's not the Queen's language anymore.
Yeah. What kind of Western influences were there in the pop culture, in movies, books, and music?
Interesting question. I'll tell you my time. In our time, if you ever caught anyone humming a Hindi song, he was immediately blacklisted. You had to listen to Cliff Richard, then you had to listen to Boney M, you had to listen to Saturday Night Fever, because you were only supposed to be some, it used to be that very English convent. I was educated in a Irish brothers school, so I know that entire thing. You could not even mention Hindi, that was that era. And if
Yeah.
you were caught hearing a Hindi song or something, they would look down upon you with disdain that he to local hai
Yeah.
yaar. He's not a sophisticated type. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the era. Today everybody sings only Bollywood now.
Yeah. So what were the main artists you all were listening to from the West?
Oh, everything, right from ABBA to the Beatles to Bob Dylan, uh, to listening to tracks like Stairway to Heaven, whatever.
Oh.
I have listened to
Okay.
everything. I mean,
Hmm.
just about everything. I've even listened to bands like, I don't know if you heard the name, called the Grateful Dead. These are all
Yeah.
bands which were there at that time. I used to listen to
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, but yeah,
And
even I was a
movies? Yeah, go
victim
on.
of this syndrome where if I knew a lot of Hindi songs, I could hum them,
Hmm.
but I never used to do it publicly for fear of being ostracized. That was the
Hmm.
problem during the times we were growing up. But today, fine. Up to जैसे कहते हैं ना वो Bollywood word, अब everything is bindas. You can say anything you want. It doesn't make a
Yeah.
difference.
And who were the biggest Western actors, heroes, and directors you all were into, or you were
My
into?
favorites at that time, even today, would definitely be El Pacino, Robert De Niro.
Okay.
All these generation of actors. I think they were tremendous actors. The world
So
still
Marlon
will
Brando as
not
well,
be.
right?
Marlon Brando, not so much. He was. I
Oh,
wasn't there. He was of course way back in the 50s. I would say. Uh,
right.
I can't identify so much with Marlon Brando, but I really used to identify with this lot. This new lot
Hmm.
which had come at that time, the Robert De Niro's films of Martin
Yeah.
Scorsese,
Yeah.
this new age cinema which had come at that time. I used to
Hmm.
identify completely with it.
So have you watched a lot of Satyajit Ray movies as well?
I have watched a few.
Hmm.
People will always say, oh, Charulata, this and that. But I actually
Hmm.
loved that film called Sonar Kela.
Oh yes. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite films, actually. It was a very good, very interesting detective kind of. Somehow there's something
Yeah.
with the film which really appealed to me. Yeah. So, yes,
Yeah.
I have.
Satyajit Ray made two films on Feluda. The other was Joy Baba Felunath. Someday
Joy
you
Baba
can watch
film.
that as well. It's
That's right.
it's
That's right.
based in Varanasi.
I'm pretty sure I watched that also. But for some
Okay.
reason, Sonar Kela always sticks with me. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite films. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. I know some of the lines by heart of Sonarkella. Who are your favorite Western authors?
Uh, One of my favorite authors of all time was somebody called Graham Greene. I don't know if you guys have ever read it, but if
Okay.
you do read
No.
it, a lot of my ideas and everything I understood from Graham Greene. Hemingway was somebody who really
Hmm.
inspired me. Uh, I used to like Frederick Fawcett also pretty. I think I always wanted to be the other a Frederick Fawcett of this country, which I think
Okay.
I'm trying to do. I think he used to write very well. He's dead now. There's a very inspiring line from John Le Carre. He also used to write these espionage thrillers, and he's written a
Hmm.
lot of books. I think he died some time back, and he said that I want to continue writing practically a book a year, and I will continue to
Hmm.
write till my last day. And that's the line for me also. That as long as I'm sane and I'm alive, I want to continue writing, till
Hmm.
the end. So yeah, in that sense, some of these Western authors have been very inspiring. No question about it.
Hmm. Who are your favorite Indian authors back then, and who are your favorite Indian authors today? Have they changed even?
Uh, I'm being honest with you. It sounds very arrogant, but I'm going to tell you, I
Hmm.
don't take too much to many Indian authors. I still feel
Hmm.
a lot of Indian authors, even today, struggle with syntax. They struggle with
Yeah.
proper plotting and good
Hmm.
books,
Hmm.
especially in my genre. I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I would still recommend if people really want to, and there I'm giving you a couple of names which not many
Hmm.
people would give you, but I think they were really good Indian authors. There's somebody called Manohar
Hmm.
Malgaonkar who used to write
Okay.
very, very well, and then V.S. Naipaul. V.S. Naipaul was
I
very,
see.
very good at it. Yeah. So
Hmm.
these are practically two of my favorite authors, Indian authors.
Okay. Sir, since you mentioned writing till the end of time, Stephen King has a voluminous production, of course. So, do you write like him, that no matter what happens, I'll write 6 pages a day?
No. I don't. I don't. I don't have that kind of discipline. I always write, or for that matter, I do anything. Whether it's my in stage, when I act on stage, that you have to be more disciplined because you have to follow the discipline set by the director of the play. That's a different thing. But my podcast, my writing, I only do it when I really feel like doing it. I mean, I can start, for instance, at 10 o'clock in the night. I can go up to 2 o'clock in the night. I can do that. I write it this way. But I don't follow this schedule. And I want to dispel this misnomer which a lot of people have. Oh no, writers need this lakeside view. There has to be a cabin on the lake. They have to see these beautiful mountains before they start writing. That's all rubbish.
Right.
You can write anywhere. You can write in your room. You can write on your bed. You can write anywhere. Just take your laptop and start putting pen to paper, as they say. But really, I'm not disciplined in that sense. But I write when I really feel the urge to write.
Yeah.
But
I think
having said that, I have to
Yeah.
say I've never in my life faced what is called a writer's block. I don't know why
I was
people
about to
keep
ask that.
complaining about a writer's block. I've never faced it. When I write, it just comes to me.
Sir, I have heard from, I don't know if you've heard of a person called Jordan Peterson and Dan Brown as well. Jordan Peterson is a psychologist and now a motivational speaker and political commentator as well. And Dan Brown of Da Vinci Code. Both of them have said pretty much the same thing on writer's block, that if you're facing a writer's block, it means you are expecting too much out of yourself at that moment. So you're discarding a lot of things which you can actually write and build upon later. Why don't you just write that down and build upon it the next day?
Exactly. A lot of youngsters, when they talk to me and they says, give us tips and all that, I said, listen, follow your passion and put pen to paper. Don't think too much about it. You can always edit it later. You can always
Right.
refurbish it. You can add whatever you want to or subtract whatever you want. But don't wait.
Right.
Put pen to paper. Just do it. You know the Nike line? Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because people from no other profession face a block. I mean, there's no truck driver's block or a doctor's block. There's only writer's block because I think creative people are that complaining in their personality.
What happens with a lot of people is that they are weighed down by expectations, partly their own
Right.
expectations, unreal
Right.
expectations, or
Yeah.
they're weighed down by expectation of somebody who's near them. And that's why they start facing these kind of these are all psychological problems. I'm saying
Right.
whether you write well or good or bad or whatever, just write. Don't wait. Write.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you read any Stephen King ever?
Yes, I have. I have read a few Stephen King. I actually have seen a lot of his films
The
and
movies?
series.
Yeah.
See, he's very engaging. But then the problem with Stephen King is it also becomes, in a certain sense, very predictable. You know the horror element where it's going to come and everything. But yeah, I agree that he can be a compulsive read when you feel like you can just go through it. You can zip through a Stephen King novel and you won't feel bored.
Okay. I was about to ask that. Do you think they are pointlessly long or not?
Pointlessly?
Long or
Sorry?
not? They are pointlessly too big.
It's okay. It's okay. See, there's something about Stephen King which you should know. I'm talking of his initial novels. Stephen King used to write about small time America. Okay,
Yeah.
the small towns. What was happening in the
That's what I
small.
like most about his
Yes.
books. He writes an
Yeah.
America that you don't see anywhere else.
You don't see. That's not the glamorous Los Angeles or New York or whatever. That's small time America. So the horror is obviously set in the communities and all that, but it
Yeah.
gives you a very interesting and even a realistic viewpoint of what happens in small towns in America, which is fascinating. That I think is the real strength of Stephen King.
So Stephen King is going on writing books almost every day. On the other hand,
Yes.
the author of Game of Thrones is stuck with his next sequel. He is not being able to manage it because he also believes that I'll write when my mood strikes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, yeah, I have been meaning to ask this for a long time as well. What do you think is the future of Indian fiction writing? Because I agree with you 100% that it's pretty bad. The Indian, especially in English. Bengali, to I know there has been awesome stuff forever, and I don't know about the other Indian languages, but English is in a pretty bad spot. It has forever been in a pretty bad spot. Do you see it improving drastically in the near future?
Yeah, as I said, I'll appear as very arrogant or very, presumptuous and all that, whatever word people are free to use it against me. I don't see any good writers in Indian fiction English. And that's the reason why even today people will pick up a Jeffrey Archer or a David Baldacci, or they will pick up the old timers, Alistair MacLean,
Yeah.
Desmond Bailey, because they don't find. See, there are three big problems in people who are writing in English and Indian fiction. Number one is I feel the syntax, the sentence construction is pretty poor.
Yes. Yes.
It's not readable if you ask me. That's the first one. The plotting
Absolutely.
also is very, very vague.
Absolutely.
And this presumptuousness is always there.
Absolutely.
And this entire emphasis on mythology or either romance,
Yeah.
it gets
Yeah.
too much. I don't find contemporary Indian plots at all. And now I've stopped bothering to even try and read any author. I don't. I'm being honest. So if something is good is also coming along, I don't know, because I haven't read any Indian author for quite some time. But yeah, I'm just telling you my honest point of view.
Why do you think that is? Because it's not like none of the writers are from convents, and they should at least have English better than everyone else. Why are even they not succeeding at writing good English?
Because even today, it is like glamorous. I'm using the word in quotes to write in English fiction. It seems like a glamorous proposition. I've written a book in English and fiction, and wow, great. But and then everybody wants to cash in on some current trend or the other. There were some years back, there were these Chetan Bhagat kind of books. Then mythology started. Then everybody was writing mythology. Then romance started. Everybody was writing romance. It's quite stupid, actually, if you ask me. My point is, I can't give you one big definitive reason why they want to still continue write. But yeah, if it appeals to them, by all means, go ahead and do that. I personally, I don't really buy into all this. I wouldn't spend my time buying any of these books, to be honest.
Oh yes, I have completely given up on them as well. But sir, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but non-fiction writing by Indian English authors has been forever absolutely world-class and fantastic. Ever since the time of our independence writers, independence freedom fighters, to this day, Shashi Tharoor, even Sanjeev Sanyal, Lord Vikram Sampath, J. Sai Deepak. How is that forever always been awesome, and fiction writing has been horrible? What's this gap?
Because of the very nature of the genre, non-fiction means you have to be an expert on something or the other. So you have to be proficient in some particular stream or not. Either you're an economist, let's say, or you are even a philosopher or a thinker, or you're talking of the economy, or you're talking of strategy, geostrategic things. So yeah, a lot of these people are, and that's why the conviction is there. The research is there. Yeah, that's the other important point. In fiction also, they don't bother to research well. That's the other big problem.
Yes.
But in non-fiction, people research very well. If let's say you're writing on past, let's say, conflicts like the India-China conflict, or so there are a lot of people who have done excellent research, and that is why non-fiction is definitely more authentic. It is definitely more appealing, and it is definitely more, has credibility as compared to fiction in India.
From our independence days, our pre-independence days, even pro-Pakistan activists and ideologues and lawyers like Syed Amir Ali, Nawab Salimullah, or even on the right-wing side, Savarkar, all of them write English so well. That stuff should be taught in our English literature classes, I think. Have you read some of those guys? Syed Amir Ali especially, and Savarkar especially. Mind-bogglingly well written.
I'm sure, but no, I haven't. I honestly haven't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I used to be an avid reader when I was younger, but lately it's hard to pick up a book, and audio, video has totally supplanted reading. I want to get back into reading. Any tips on how to do that?
Start reading my novels and you will change your mind.
Yeah.
No, actually, read my current book. I strongly recommend this book, not because I'm trying to, hard sell the book, but it is actually a very,
Yeah.
very interesting book. It's both a slice of history of the 70s. It's a very engaging story. It's a very contemporary book.
Yeah.
There are a lot of young characters in the book, which you also will identify with. So yeah, sure. Pick up this book, and then maybe you'll change your mind on a lot of things.
So with that, we end today's discussion, and we hope to have you back sometime very soon to discuss many other aspects. Today anyway, we discussed a lot of stuff. That other day, we will discuss specifically other stuff. Thank you very much for joining my podcast, sir.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to come on your show, and best of luck to you. And hope to be with you another time, another day, very soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir. Good night, guys.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
যদি সবাই ফিরে যায় ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা সবাই ফিরে যায় যদি গহন পথে যাওয়ার কালে কেউ ফিরে না যায় তবে পথের কাটা তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে তুই রক্ত মাখা চরণ তলে একলা দলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে যদি আলো না ধরে ওরে ওরে ও ভাগা আলো না ধরে যদি ঝড় বাদলে আধার রাতে দুয়ার দেয় ঘরে তবে বজ্রানলে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা জলরে আপন বুকের পাঁজর জ্বালিয়ে নিয়ে একলা জলরে যদি তোর ডাক শুনে কেউ না আসে তবে একলা চলো রে একলা চলো একলা চলো